Everyone knows the story of Itachi Uchiha, the genius, the prodigy, the brother who slaughtered his entire clan, and the tragic hero who secretly saved the hidden leaf. But what if that isn't the full story? What if the greatest lie in Naruto wasn't the Uchiha massacre, but Itachi himself? Because hidden beneath the sacrifices, the tears, and the redemption story lies a disturbing truth that almost nobody talks about. A truth buried in plain sight. And once you see it, you may never look at Itachi the same way again. When most fans discuss Itachi Uchiha, the conversation usually follows one of two paths. Some see him as a villain. Others see him as a saint, a tragic hero forced to make an impossible choice. But reality is rarely that simple. Few people realize that Itachi's story contains contradictions, hidden warnings, and psychological scars that completely change how we interpret his actions. Because while Naruto eventually reveals that Itachi was secretly protecting the village, the series never fully addresses the devastating consequences of how he chose to do it. And that is where the real mystery begins. The dark truth about Itachi isn't that he killed his clan. It's why he believed he had the right to decide who lived and who died. To understand this mystery, we need to go back to Itachi's childhood, long before the massacre, long before Akatsuki, long before Sasuke's hatred. Itachi was not raised in peace. He was raised in war. At just 4 years old, his father took him to a battlefield. There, Itachi witnessed mountains of corpses, broken soldiers, lifeless bodies scattered across the earth. Children should never see such things. But Itachi did, and that moment changed him forever. Most fans remember this scene as the reason Itachi became compassionate. But there is something most fans never noticed. Trauma doesn't only create empathy. Sometimes it creates obsession. And Itachi became obsessed with one idea above all else: preventing war, no matter the cost. As a child, Itachi was already smarter than nearly everyone around him. Teachers praised him. Leaders admired him. Even experienced shinobi viewed him as exceptional. But intelligence can become dangerous when nobody challenges it. The more gifted Itachi became, the more isolated he grew. He began seeing the world differently from everyone else. And eventually, he started believing he could see solutions that others could not. This changes everything. Because throughout Naruto, one pattern appears repeatedly. Whenever Itachi faces a difficult moral choice, he makes the decision alone. He doesn't seek alternatives. He doesn't trust others. He carries the burden himself. At first glance, this seems noble, but from another perspective, it reveals something deeply unsettling. A growing belief that only he could determine the correct path. The official story is familiar. The Uchiha clan was planning a coup. The Hidden Leaf feared civil war. Danzo pressured Itachi into choosing between the village and his family. So Itachi chose the village. Simple, tragic, necessary. At least that's how many fans interpret it. But the truth is far darker. Because buried within the story is a disturbing question. Why were those the only options? Think about it. The most intelligent character in the village. A strategic genius. A master manipulator. A shinobi capable of infiltrating Akatsuki. Yet somehow the only solution he could imagine was genocide? That should raise alarms. What happens next is shocking when you examine it carefully. Instead of resisting the system, Itachi became its executioner. Instead of exposing corruption, he protected it. Instead of saving innocent people, he personally killed them, including children, including people who had no involvement in the coup. The series often frames this as sacrifice. But sacrifice usually means giving up something of your own. Itachi gave up something far worse. Other people's lives. One of the most overlooked aspects of Naruto is Danzo's manipulation. Most fans blame Danzo, and they should, but few people recognize how completely Danzo succeeded. Because Danzo didn't merely manipulate Itachi's actions, he manipulated Itachi's worldview. Danzo convinced him that peace could only exist through absolute control, through secrecy, through fear, through eliminating threats before they emerge. Sound familiar? Those ideas are not heroic. They are authoritarian. And the frightening part is that Itachi accepted them, not because he was evil, but because he was terrified. Terrified of another war. Terrified of watching more people die. Terrified of repeating the horrors he witnessed as a child. Fear became the foundation of his morality. And morality built on fear can justify almost anything. Now let's examine the most uncomfortable part of Itachi's story. His treatment of Sasuke. Most fans remember Itachi as a loving brother. And he absolutely loved Sasuke. There is no doubt about that. But love alone does not excuse abuse. After the massacre, Itachi repeatedly subjected Sasuke to unimaginable psychological torture, using Tsukuyomi, forcing him to relive traumatic memories, manipulating his emotions, fueling his hatred, destroying his sense of self. Why? Because Itachi believed suffering would make Sasuke stronger. And this is where the mask begins to crack. Few people realize that Itachi essentially turned Sasuke into a weapon designed to eventually kill him. He engineered his brother's entire future, controlled his motivations, controlled his goals, controlled his identity. From Itachi's perspective, this was love. But from Sasuke's perspective, it was psychological imprisonment. This changes everything about their relationship. Because the tragedy isn't simply that Sasuke hated Itachi. The tragedy is that Itachi never truly allowed Sasuke to choose his own path. Throughout Naruto, crows constantly appear around Itachi. Most viewers treat them as a stylistic choice, a cool visual motif. But their symbolism is fascinating. In many cultures, crows represent death, secrets, messengers between worlds, hidden knowledge. And that symbolism perfectly reflects Itachi's character. He exists between identities, hero and villain, protector and destroyer, loving brother and abuser, truth and deception. Everything about Itachi revolves around hidden realities. Even after death, he continues manipulating events through the crow hidden within Naruto. Think about that. Even from beyond the grave, Itachi is still trying to control outcomes, still trying to shape the future according to his vision, still unable to let go. Here is where the deeper analysis begins. Many fans describe Itachi as selfless, but was he truly selfless? Or was he suffering from something else? A savior complex, a belief that he alone must carry the world's burdens, that only he can prevent disaster, that only he can make the difficult choices. The problem with this mindset is that it slowly removes everyone else's agency. And that is exactly what happened. The Uchiha weren't consulted. Sasuke wasn't consulted. The village wasn't consulted. Itachi decided. Everyone else simply lived with the consequences, or died from them. This isn't the behavior of a traditional hero. It's the behavior of someone who has become trapped inside their own sense of responsibility. Someone who believes their judgment outweighs everyone else's. Here is the cruel irony. The very thing Itachi wanted most was peace. Yet his actions created some of the greatest suffering in the entire series. The massacre created Sasuke's hatred. Sasuke's hatred fueled revenge. That revenge helped trigger major conflicts throughout Naruto. The cycle Itachi tried to stop continued anyway. In fact, his actions may have prolonged it. This is one of Naruto's most brilliant hidden themes. Good intentions do not guarantee good outcomes. Sometimes the people trying hardest to save the world become trapped by their own methods. And nobody represents that tragedy better than Itachi. Now we arrive at the revelation that changes everything. The dark truth about Itachi is not that he failed. It's that he finally realized he was wrong. During his final conversation with Sasuke after being revived through Edo Tensei, Itachi admits something extraordinary. For the first time in his life, he acknowledges that he should have trusted others. He should have trusted Sasuke. He should not have carried everything alone. This moment is often remembered as emotional closure, but it's actually something much bigger. It's a confession that his entire philosophy was flawed. Not his intentions, his philosophy. The belief that one person could secretly control events for everyone's benefit. The belief that he alone knew what was best. The belief that peace could be forced into existence. Itachi spent his entire life acting like a chess player moving pieces across a board. Only at the end did he realize those pieces were people, and people must choose their own futures. That realization is the true tragedy of Itachi Uchiha, because it arrived too late. For years, fans have debated whether Itachi was a hero or a villain, but perhaps that debate misses the point. The brilliance of Itachi's character is that he was both, and neither. He was a traumatized child trying to save the world, a genius who could predict enemy movements, but not the consequences of his own loneliness, a loving brother who inflicted unimaginable pain, a protector who became an executioner, a hero whose greatest enemy was his own certainty. And perhaps that is why Itachi remains one of anime's most fascinating characters. Not because he was perfect, not because he was right, but because he was human. His story is a warning, a reminder that even the noblest intentions can become dangerous when one person believes they alone should decide the fate of others. And hidden beneath all the tragedy, all the sacrifice, and all the mystery, that may be the darkest truth of all. So what do you think? Was Itachi truly a hero who made an impossible sacrifice? Or was he a tragic genius whose belief in controlling everything ultimately caused more suffering than he prevented? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, because the answer might completely change how we view one of Naruto's most iconic characters.